Second passage that I want to read from the book is towards the climax. Generally, I believe it's not a convention to read something from towards the end of the book. But I think that you've got an idea of what the fantasy bit is like. Now I would like to give you an idea of what the ideological bit is like. This is where Eyelash, through very, very sort of unrealistic move, has come face to face with this terrorist organization, and she's now confronted with the leader, and she is a girl of great power, and he's trying to convince her to join his side. And the way he says it is something, it's an opinion that we come across every day. It's something that it's an ideology that almost sounds convincing for a bit, and then you begin to see why it's not. So I'll start reading. This is from the second last chapter. Eyelash froze in her tracks and would not go any further. The warrior pushed her, and she was standing in front of the leader of War Ocean. He said, "You're from the real world. Is it true you can do anything you imagine?" His tone was much softer, and he was back to looking his charming self. Very unlike the terrible person he was when he was enraged, Eyelash didn't say anything. He said, folding his arms, "Tell me, Eyelash, if I asked you to imagine that rock moving, would you be able to do it?" Eyelash unwittingly imagined the gigantic rock flying up, and it floated in midair. She hadn't intended to do it. It had just come as an instinctive reaction. Legendary gazed at the rock till it fell on the ground, stirring up the dust. Legendary looked at her and said, "Eyelash, you have great power, and you don't know it. Tell me why you're here." Eyelash answered this time, "To get back the scimitar of power." Legendary raised an eyebrow and said, "No, you're here because that twitch of a girl wants the scimitar of power. You're here because she wants to use your power. Didn't you realize she was putting you in such great danger?" Eyelash spoke angrily. "I am here because I wanted to be here. I know the War Ocean is dangerous for imagination, and the scimitar of power is an unmatched weapon." So Legendary smiled and said, "What you know about the War Ocean is what Dream has told you about it. She's a stubborn girl who set out on a mad adventure and brought you as a shield with her." Eyelash was silent for some time. She felt extremely guilty at having come on this mission and enraged at Dream for having brought her here. Legendary went on, "Let me tell you about the War Ocean. For centuries, mermen and mermaids and creatures of the ocean have lived in rivers and seas of different continents of imagination. There they were exploited and ghettoized by virtue of being different from all land creatures. They were murdered and denied the right to a life of dignity. They faced discrimination and were victims of hate crimes and the worst atrocities you can think of. The continental governments held thousands of them imprisoned on charges like threat to continental integrity. They were insulted wherever they tried to assert their identity. In some places, they protested and were inhumanly killed in large numbers. These are the equal laws of Atlantis. The continental governments are cowardly and selfish to disregard the condition of the water beings because they are in a minority. The only time, Eyelash, that we have committed excesses is to save our brothers and sisters and to make ourselves heard. In my eyes, that is hardly a crime." Eyelash looked at Legendary, who said every word sincerely and said, "I didn't know." "You didn't know what the War Ocean was. We aren't terrorists. We are freedom fighters." Eyelash stood there and Legendary walked up to her. "You have great power, Eyelash, and it is up to you to use it well and for the greatest good. You should help us and not those two misguided teenagers who have neither the power nor direction to do any good for themselves or the world. I have tested you on the ship and sent March to bring you here. Know how powerful you are." She said, "How can I believe you when you just expressed your heartlessness and your intention to kill children and your ambition to destroy the world?" Legendary had an answer to this, and now he was standing in front of Eyelash. "Intimidation is just a tactic we have to employ to be heard by our cruel and barbaric opponents. If I did not look and sound frightening, I would hardly be visible. And don't fool yourself, Eyelash. You believe Dream more because you've spent more time with her. Remember, there is just one truth, and I'm telling you the truth." Dream had said that to Eyelash when they had first met. Eyelash didn't know what to think. The way Legendary spoke about the water creatures, his vengeful violence seemed justified to her. She knew she was questioning her very inherent belief against violence and was on the verge of denying her position of peace, but things were happening too quickly and Legendary was right. She didn't know enough to be able to make up her mind. What had she been thinking? Legendary said, "Remember, Eyelash, I am the Prime Minister of the Oceans, which means that it is in my power to help you to return to the real world. That girl can't do anything for you, and you are willing to risk your life for a cause that you don't even agree with anymore." "Who said I? You have everything to lose if you side with them." He freed her from the metal chains, and Eyelash stood in the wind, unafraid but very muddled up. A tempest of emotions raged in her head, combined with intense panic. Lysander Legendary walked back to the chamber where Dream and Ramses sat captive. She followed him in. She saw Dream and felt a certain amount of contempt for her. Legendary drew aside the carpet curtain, and behind it she saw standing the scimitar of power, the glow of which distinguished it from any other arm she had seen before, even in imagination. Legendary, much to Eyelash's and Dream's and Ramses' horror, gave the scimitar to Eyelash. She stood with it in her hands and looked at it. Legendary said to her, "I trust you to help the cause of the War Ocean, and I will help you go back home." Dream shouted, "Eyelash, kill him before he washes out your brains." Eyelash asked Dream, "He's only avenging the deaths of ocean creatures in the continents, is he not?" Dream looked at her and spoke, "I don't know what he's been telling you. For every water creature suffering in the continents, the War Ocean has taken the lives of a dozen innocent people." "Innocent people, Eyelash, surely you know how wrong it is." Legendary glared at the two of them and asked Eyelash, "Don't you think we should get rid of these two?" Eyelash was about to protest, but she hesitated, and Legendary shot two immense bolts out of his fists. Dream and Ramses lay motionless on the ground. Suddenly, Eyelash was shaken out of her reverie. She realized what an unfortunate direction her thoughts had taken. All of a sudden, Eyelash of the real world wanted to destroy Legendary. But he was a powerful creature. Now that she alone was left to defend herself, she was frozen with fear. Why hadn't Legendary sensed her panic, breathing, her heart beating nervously and quite audibly? If he found her out, there would be nothing with which she could defend herself. She had to think fast now and panic about what she didn't have. She decided to take the chance she had tempted fate one last time, hoping that whatever had helped her survive all that she had would come to her rescue again. The scimitar of power, the greatest legend of imaginary realms, the ornament of darkness. It was heavy and big in her hand, and she held it up to Legendary resolutely. All of his soldiers raced into the fort. Eyelash pointed it at them, and they all backed out. She said, "I will kill you." He reached out, and Eyelash quickly withdrew her hand, taking it to her back. "You will be making a huge mistake by not siding with the genuine cause of the War Ocean. Don't forget, Eyelash, you're too young to stand up to me. I will have your power forcibly if you don't support me of your own free will." Eyelash spoke again, grasping the scimitar more tightly. "Why should millions of purposes perish for the sake of your one purpose?" Legendary said harshly, "What is good is hardly for you to decide. You can't lay claim to any one good. You can't say what justice is or what fairness is." Eyelash said, "I choose to not give in to you, not because I believe a certain way is blatantly right or the other entirely evil. I choose to confront you because I believe in a multitude of good, a plurality of purpose, a tolerance of everybody's destiny. You are evil because you seek not to do those things that I or anyone else may claim are evil, but because you define and eliminate those that do not adhere to your definition of right." Eyelash said again, "There is no purpose served with your evil design of destroying the world. Rationality may be deceptive, but I know one thing. There is no reason to cause mayhem that will benefit none. Not even you yourself, Lysander Legendary. I do not fight you because I wish to not allow your purpose to exist. I fight you because your purpose will not allow anybody else's purpose to exist." And with that, I'll finish the book reading for the day. And thank you very much again for all of you being here, for having the patience. I probably read a lot more than I should have, but thank you for being, sitting through the whole thing. And thank you for coming to the launch. And now the book is out into the world, and I hope you'll get a chance to read it and enjoy it for yourself.